What's up, everybody? Hey, it's good to be here again. This is your Project 2 tutorial for Music Production 2, and the project is called Where the Sidewalk Ends. The idea of this project, or the purpose behind this project, is for you to create your own drum beat and then rap or sing a song behind that drum beat or on top of that drum beat. So what you're going to do for this project is you're going to choose a children's book, poem, or any text with strophic form, and then you're going to create a drum beat that you can perform the text over. Now, if you need some inspiration for this project, you guys can see some 3 links right here. This can be found in Google Classroom as well, and you can click on any one of these and get an idea about this project. The objectives of this project are right here. You are going to organize a pre-existing text into a musical form. You are going to create an original drum beat, and then you're going to record and perform your text over that drum beat. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to choose a text that you think can be organized into a song or a rap. Now, keep in mind that you will need enough text here to create a drum beat that you will need enough to create a drum beat that will go behind your text. So your text needs to be long enough to be performed as a song or a rap. Now, some suggestions are going to include a Dr. Seuss book, maybe a Shel Silverstein poem, or other children's books or poems. I chose the book Mr. Brown Can Moo, Can You, which is by Dr. Seuss. The next thing you're going to do is create an original drum beat. Now, you can use the DAW of your choice, but you have to submit the assignment in Soundtrap. And just so you know, I was able to create everything for my project in Soundtrap. I did not go outside of Soundtrap to find any sounds or any beats or anything or samples like that. Everything I used was straight from Soundtrap in that program. Okay. Now, you can vary your drum beat depending on the verse, the chorus, or text or other features. What I did was kept the drum beat the same the entire piece, and then I added sound effects and I varied things over the top of the drum beat, bass line, and harmony. Now, you need to organize your song, and the text is going to dictate that, but you need to read through the text a couple times and start thinking about how that is going to dictate the form of your song. You need to think about how many verses you're going to have. Are there any chorus? Is there anything that's repeated multiple times in the book? And how many other sections are you going to have? Are you going to have an intro? Are you going to have an outro? Are you going to have any interludes in the middle to help maybe separate those sections or those verses in your song? Then you're going to create a form track and label or map out your song. I will tell you this, as I was doing it, my form somewhat was a little fluid. It was definitely fluid as I was doing this song, and I would look through the text and then I'd be like, oh, well, I could add a break here. And then that made my form change. The bookends, or like the intro and the outro, was the same. All right, I know I didn't change that idea. However, the middle of it, there were 3 definitive sections of the text. However, how I separated those texts was still left up to choice, and I did finally settle on that. So I do have 3 sections and 2 like small little interludes in there that allowed me to break up, the 3 sections. And lastly, here, perform and record your text into the project. I can't stress this one enough, guys. You got to practice this. Okay, you have to practice the text. You have to work through how you're going to say it, how you're going to say it in rhythm, and you need to be consistent about that. So you're going to put your drum loop on repeat, and then you're just going to repeat the text and figure out how the sections are going to go for you. You can rap, you can sing, you can do spoken word. All of that is fine. You are welcome to edit your vocal track with any effects or add any other sound effects that relate to the text that you would like. I did choose a filter for my microphone. However, I didn't really do any edits to my voice. There were a couple of times I recorded over myself multiple times just to give a different effect or a different feel. And I did add some sound effects. So what I would like to do is walk you guys through how I created my piece. So we're going to go to this project first here, and I'm just going to show you what my beat is and the components to that, and then I'm going to take you to the actual project where my whole song is. So the first thing that I had going on in my head was actually a bass line, and I know I said this is a drum beat project, and I totally get that, but personally I'm more of a melodic person where I think of a melody first and then I fill the melody in with other components. So for this, that didn't really change. And the bass line was the first thing that I thought of. So I was actually doing some housework. This was going in my head, and it sounded like do 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 do, and that was about like the vibe of the piece. And so I actually did a voice memo of it, and then recorded it. Didn't think about it for a while, and then I came back. I started working on this project, and I came to Soundtrap and started typing this thing out. And this is what I came up with. So I chose the sound cab bass, and originally my bass line, I was thinking of it to be longer, but when I found this sound, I actually liked the idea. It was a little more shorter, more staccato. So here is what I came up with for the bass line, and I'm going to record this in for you right now. Okay, so that is the bass line. Now I'm going to quantize this to the 16th note, right down here, and then this is the sound you're going to get. You're going to notice that the metronome is actually pretty slow, down at 76. And what I did in my actual project is I actually went in and adjusted the length to all of these notes as well. Especially since it's just a 4-measure loop that I used over the entire song, I would go in and adjust and make sure everything was exactly how I wanted it, because I knew it would loop and repeat over and over and over. So the next thing that I did was created my drum beat. And if you remember back from production 1, the one thing that we talked about with the drum beat is that the kick drum needs to relate to the rhythm of the bass. So as we're listening to this, the rhythm that I chose to really catch with the bass drum was this. I always wanted to catch beat 1. So you guys get the idea. What I'm going to do now is record 3 chunks of this in. And since we quantized to the 16th note, by the way, I chose to do a 16th note subdivision in the hi-hat. So it sounds like this. So you guys get the idea there. And then the snare, I just kept on 2 and 4. I kept it really, really simple. So I'm going to record in these 3 chunks, and we're going to get going. Here we go. Okay, and we're done with the kick drum. We're going to quantize that to the 16th note. And now we're going to come back and record the hi-hat. Here we go. Okay, hi-hat's done, and we were obviously going to quantize that to the 16th note. There it is, and now we're going to add the snare drum. Here it is. And then we will quantize that. We'll just quantize it the same so it doesn't mess anything else up. And here is the entire beat. Sounds great. Okay, now the next thing we are going to do is add some harmony. And remember, these are the things that you don't have to add. You don't need a bass line. You don't need harmony. I just wanted to do that. So here I'm walking you through how I was thinking. I am in the key of D minor. So that is what I chose. And these are the chords. It's basically a D minor and then an A minor 7 chord. So I chose clavinet, and here is the sound that I'm going with. All right, so we're going to give this a shot right now, and I'm going to record. And I'm going to also try in the end to catch that bass line because that's such a cool sound, but I could always go in and record that over the top of it at the end, this part here. All right, that's just a cool little line, and the low clavinet sound sounds so cool with that. So here we go, recording the harmony. Okay, and there we are with that, and we will also quantize that to the 16th note because that is our subdivision. Sounds like this. Cool, and we are good to go with the beat, and that is the entirety of my beat. That's all I use for the entire song. And one thing I want to point out to you guys, a lot of students will say, oh, I want to think of something really cool and super rhythmic. I'm going to caution you to do that with the beat. This is your foundation for the entire piece. And you want to be able to have this just like steady rock of a beat for you. And you don't want this to change. You can do whatever you want over top of this, but the idea of your beat, the idea of like the foundation should be really, really steady and really sturdy. So make sure as you guys are creating this, that you're not trying to do anything too crazy with the actual beat itself, because then that's going to make it too complicated and too busy when you start adding things to it. So what I'm going to do now is take you to my actual project, and I have flushed this out and created everything. But what you can see here is that you have the harmony, the bass line, and then the drum beat is down here. I did add a drum fill right here just to get us into the A section here, the first chunk, and you can see that when I bring that down. We have the intro and then the A section. There's one thing that I did add, and you can see this says bass line, high octave, and that's what we just did. But I wanted it to have more of like, I want it to hit harder, have a little harder of a feel, more depth to it. So I added the same thing, and I duplicated the track, and you can just go here and it says duplicate, and you can see that it just adds another one. All right, and I am going to undo that because I don't want to do that again. And then I just dropped the octave. So I went down here to change pitch, and I hit -12. And so what we get is this. And I will move the cycle tool here so we can listen to it. And you can just hear that lower bass add a little more depth to it for me, and I was a little happier with how that sounded. So the other things that I just want to walk you through here are just some extra components. We have the main vocal here. It's like an intro. I do have a couple vocal tracks here. So we have the main one, but I didn't like how I did the A section, so I re-recorded it a second time because I liked everything else. And then I do have a part in the book where it's like an owl and he goes hoo, hoo, hoo. And I recorded myself several times saying that. You can see that here. I do have my bass intro in the beginning, but it's a different sound. I wanted us to have a different feel in the beginning than the main section. Here are just some oohs, some vocal choir oohs, and they sound like this. It was just a slightly different feel, and then I went in and edited the lengths so they were longer and then bled into each other, okay? And then I used it here again. This is a simple vocal loop, and then over here are booms, like cinematic booms, and then lightning crashes, because at one point we're talking about booms and lightning. Down here is just a quick like build, like a swell. And then in the end, I use the same idea with the harmony, just like a different sound. And then I did sing in the end, and I wanted harmony when I sang. So I recorded myself 3 different times, not including the 4th time here, of the melody that I sang. And then I had like a stacked harmony effect, which was really cool. So here is what I'm going to do for you really quick before we play this amazing work of art. The book was set up in a way that really was conducive to me coming up with this structure. So it starts off like this. Oh, the wonderful sounds Mr. Brown can do. He can sound like a cow. He can go moo moo. He can sound like a bee. Mr. Brown can buzz. How about you? Can you go buzz buzz? He can sound like a cork. Pop, 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 pop. He can sound like horse feet. Clop, clop, clop. He can sound like a rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo. He can sound like an owl. Hoo, 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 hoo. And this part here, Mr. Brown can do it. How about you? I decided to repeat that here in my interlude and use a couple different sounds, just like the beginning, to change up the pace a little bit. And then you get into the next section, and it's kind of the same thing, and then it gets to a repeated part again, which I used as the intro. So the second section is this. He can sound like the rain, dibble, 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 dop, dibble, 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 dop, dop, dop. He can sound like a clock. He can tick, he can talk. He can sound like the hand on a door, knock, knock. Boom, 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 Mr. Brown is a wonder. Boom, 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 Mr. Brown makes thunder. He makes lightning, splat, splat, splat. It's very, very hard to make a noise like that. And then this next chunk, Mr. Brown can whisper. This is a new section, and it's softer. So I wanted to add something to set up the softer section so it didn't just happen right away. So the next section is here is Mr. Brown can whisper, very soft, very high, like the soft, soft whisper of a butterfly. Maybe you can too. I think you ought to try. And that line there I wanted to repeat a couple times because I felt like I wanted to set it up. I want you to try. And then the next part is, oh, the wonderful sounds Mr. Brown can do. Why don't you try to do them too? Turn the page and let's review. And in the end, they have a review where they go through all the sounds: moo moo, buzz buzz, pop pop, clop, cock-a-doodle-doo, hoo hoo, dibble dibble dop, tick tock, knock knock, boom boom, splat. Last, a whisper whisper, and that is that. So I wanted to use all of those components in my song, and what I did was put my beat on cycle, and I practiced. All right, and I practiced several times to make sure that I didn't have to go into Soundtrap and keep hitting record and record and record. I wanted to be able to do this pretty much in 1 or 2 takes. So you can see here, 1 take, it was okay, and then I redid my A section, and that was it. And then I just started adding in some extra stuff. So all of this stuff here was added extra after the fact of me doing this. So here is my creation of my Dr. Seuss rap. Mr. Brown can moo. Can you? All right, y'all. We're about ready to get down with this sickness. All right, we got a little Dr. Seuss for you here. It's called Mr. Brown Can Moo. Can you? Mr. Brown can moo. Can you? So we got J Money up in here about ready to spit it for y'all. Here we go. Wonderful sound Mr. Brown can do. He can sound like a cow. He can go moo moo. He can sound like a bee. Mr. Brown can buzz. How about you? Can you go buzz buzz? He can sound like a cork. Pop 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 pop. He can sound like horse feet. Clap clap clap. He can sound like a rooster. Cock a doodle doo. He can sound like an owl. Hoo 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 hoo. Mr. Brown can do it. Yeah. What? Mr. Brown can do it. Come on now, join me, y'all. Mr. Brown can do it. We got one more time. Mr. Brown can do it. How about you? He can sound like the rain. Dibble, 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 dop, dip, 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 dibble, dibble, dop, dop, dop. He can sound like a clock. He can tick and talk. He can sound like a hand on a door. Knock, knock. We got boom, boom, boom. He is a wonder. Boom, boom, boom. Mr. Brown makes thunder. He makes lightning. Splat, splat, splat. And it's very, very hard to make a noise like that. Let's bring it down now. Here we go. All right, Mr. Brown can whisper very soft, very high, like the soft, soft whisper of a butterfly. Maybe you, I said, maybe you. One more time, maybe you can too. I think you ought to try. Oh, the wonderful sound Mr. Brown can do. Why don't you try to do them too? Turn the page and let's review. We got a moo, moo, buzz, buzz, a pop, pop, clop, cock-a-doodle. talk, we got tick tock, knock, knock, boom, boom, splat. Then we finish with a whisper, yeah. Then we finish with a whisper. And that is that. All right, y'all. I hope you like my new single. I dropped it like it's hot. It'll be on Spotify later. Hey, now remember, I need you to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and then watch this and have a wonderful time. Good seeing you all. See you later, and then see you at my next video. Deuces.